Hello, Denise. Is everybody here? Got everybody here?
They're all coming on. You just chat away.
I'm going to chat away first of all about my initially coming across Denise many years back when we did Me Without You together. And I always remember, because I was kind of such a big fan of you did a film called Whale Rider. This is way back when. But I loved Whale Rider. And I always remember when I first met you talking to you about that. Denise? Can you hear me?
That was so funny. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes, I can. I'm just going to turn the volume up a bit. Can you hear me, Chrissy?
Yeah. Do you remember back in the day with Me Without You? Do you remember me talking to you about Whale Rider? Because
I do. And I remember you telling me what your favourite Sauvignon Blanc was to drink. That was also a New Zealand wine. Yeah. We wandered over wine and Wales, really, didn't we?
It did, but that was the fun times in the Isle of Man, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, stuck on the Isle of Man.
But today I want to talk to you about Mulan.
Yeah.
Initially about Mulan.
Yeah.
So my first question is, I mean, we know that Mulan isn't going to be released for some time because it's one of the ones that's kind of been pushed. The release date has been pushed because of the COVID thing.
Sure.
But how did the design job come about on Mulan?
Kind of good old-fashioned old contacts, really, Chrissy. The director's a friend of mine, so it's really as straightforward as that. She's actually the director of Whale Rider.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. See, that's the connection.
So this is my 6th film I've done with her. And when she originally asked me, quite a few years back, I didn't think that I'd get the job because I knew, I thought, great, it's lovely to be asked. But of course, I understand being a big Disney film, but also being essentially quite an important one for them in terms of, the marketplace of China. I thought, and as you know, all HODs have to be approved by Disney. So I thought, I'm not going to get it. I've done lots of art house films and my funny little bits and pieces. But Nikki was very insistent and I passed the test and I got the job. So that's plainly how I got the job, Chrissy.
Oh, do you know, that's so incredible because it kind of makes sense now. And I should have really kind of seen that. I should have literally seen that. I think because I had my love of Whale Rider, but I didn't actually go into who directed and things at the time because in my head, Whale Rider was just you. Do you know what I mean?
I was the whale.
It was you. And it kind of makes sense now that the director obviously would want you to do the Disney Mulan with her because it's the shorthand that you've got. I mean, it's kind of interesting relationship you'll build up with a director over the years. And good for her for fighting for you and getting you on it. What a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah, well, she likes to keep the same team, I think. Through, she always uses the same editor who she met with on Mulan, and often the same production designer who was the same production designer from Whale Rider, and first AD who was also our co-producer. So we all had a shorthand together, which I think for her, being such a big film, was kind of important that she felt protected and had her creative people there to totally back her.
Well, I mean, for all you guys, sorry, you're not that button yet, Pete. But for all you guys listening there, look up Whale Rider. I mean, it's an old film now. It's probably about 20 years old, isn't it? Yeah. But it's kind of, I remember at the time, Once Were Warriors as well came out of New Zealand around the same time, didn't it? And it was just that the New Zealand film market, it has always been really impressive. But it's just some really good, Once Were Warriors is another really good film. But do look them up. I'm not particularly, but just because they're good films. Sorry, Pete, what was you going to say?
No. You see, you're telepathic, Chris. Exactly that. Just the kind of context of how old was the film and that first relationship. So it's been about 20 years, is it, since that film?
Yeah, it's quite. I mean, look, I should really know all my dates, but I'm one of these people that I always think, it was before this and after that. And I haven't got anything in front of me with all the dates on them. So
listen, mine's always, before I had kids, after I had kids and I had to sort out childcare. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing where before my life became a constant juggle of making sure the kids were okay and constantly working as well, because obviously, we're both working mums.
Yeah.
To a high degree. There's another thing, right? In the trailer of Mulan, which is great. I can't wait to see it. But in the trailer, is that your hand that comes in and does the makeup?
Well, it's funny you asked that because it was meant to be my hand. But I got stuck on another stage because it was at a time we were doing pre-shoots and doing lots of testing, and all the actors were arriving, and it was kick-bollock scramble. So it's actually the lovely Georgia who looks after Mulan doing that. And it's so funny because she was heavily pregnant at the time. So,
so she was
she was trying to keep her belly out, and she did a brilliant job. And she was the only other person who had kind of the smallish hands. But yeah, that was Georgia. And we decided what to do with Mandy, the DOP, fantastic Mandy, and Nikki beforehand. So we had a little template of the types of things that she wanted to make in the montage. Because we had to kind of base it out what gets done in order.
Who did you say your DOP was?
Mandy Walker.
Oh, so it was a really female heavy.
Very much so.
Was that a deliberate choice by Disney? I know that they're kind of always very sort of onto that kind of thing, but was it a deliberate choice?
I would say I would say a deliberate choice of Nikki's, but probably wholeheartedly supported by Disney. Nikki is very, very much that way inclined in terms of just the people that she wants to communicate with, and she had to obviously meet a lot of DOPs, and she chose Mandy. Yeah, and we've also, when we've done another film, we did The Zookeeper's Wife, which was also directed by Nikki.
Oh, yeah.
We had a second unit female DOP as well. So we've, it's not uncommon, and it's a great sport, and Nikki always does.
Excellent. I'm sorry. How long did you get prep, and did you do it all in New Zealand, and how much did you get paid prep, and how much did you just invest in doing your prep?
Oh God. Well, it was a bit woolly because when the film got postponed like twice. So of course, once you read the script, Nikki must have talked to me, I guess, in early 2017. I think I got the approval around March, read the script around April, May, because I remember I was on another job and it was Easter. And then, of course, you just start having ideas, don't you? You don't necessarily, not on the payroll, and things take a long time. The deals in America take a long time to come through because it was, via the States, not via Disney UK. And then I probably started prepping, just doing some initial consultation for Nikki around August. Then I was supposed to start properly, and we were meant to shoot in December or January, but that got pushed because they hadn't found Mulan. So they had the crew, but they hadn't found Mulan. Then I think I did a couple of weeks prep before December, postponed, off the books. It was kind of a bit of a crawl, and then started up again the following year. So on paper, I think it was a couple of weeks soft prep from the UK, and then 12 weeks on the ground, which ended up being 14 because it got pushed a couple of weeks as well. But they put a big pre-shoot in amongst that time as well. So it wasn't a lot.
As they always do.
Yeah.
What is that about? And also because Mulan, like the story of Mulan, am I right in saying it's sort of 17th century story originally? Is it?
No,
or where have I got this from?
It's more 6th, 7th century. It's based off a folk song, the Ballad of Mulan, which is quite a famous part of Chinese culture. The kids get taught all about it, from an early age.
Cool.
Yeah, so it comes from that.
Right. This. There you go. That was my next question. The story of Mulan dates back to. How did you approach your research?
Well, by the time that I had started, the art department had already been building because it was really important for them to keep prepping. And Grant Major, the production designer, and his team had an amazing. They set up this whole portal where you'd get links to every single set. And I always tend to to start with, I guess, the colour and texture of the surrounding and think about what people are going to be around, particularly with a lot of the set pieces. And we knew there was going to be a lot of landscape as well. So I started looking at what they were doing. Also, the wardrobe department had started the same. So we kind of had colour meetings about colour, texture, fabric. And I always really start, particularly for that period, with artwork. So I was looking at a lot of the old sculptures and the old scroll paintings, a lot of the old poetry, which was, I guess the poetry because of the Chinese philosophical side of it, and just to find out what symbolism was important, because I really wanted to use symbolism and colour in the makeup to represent that period in time. So I looked at lots of museum collections. I bought lots of books about Chinese art of that period, because obviously there's no photographs, and everything's interpretation. So yeah, I kind of started at source, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always an interesting thing how everybody sort of researches their things differently. But I mean, it's like I've always sort of said to students, it's kind of like, you've got to interpret, photos really. Okay, we've had photos since, like, I suppose the 1920s, 30s. Sort of photography started like 1890, 1880, didn't it? But I mean, that was kind of like, okay, let's sit still for 2 hours and take a photo. I mean, and then you kind of got this wonderful thing where you can, I've always said to people, collect all your family photos, you'll get better real life photos than that. When you go back before photography, you have always got that sort of thing where, you're looking at portraits, you're looking at wood carvings.
Yes.
And you kind of, and it really is about how to interpret that and how to, I think a lot of people don't realize that with research, like what we have to do is we have to almost go into how their hygiene was at the time, the different class that you had of everybody at that time, if there was different tribes or things like that. There's so many different dimensions to it once you get beyond the photographic records of things, isn't there? And I always say, when it's a wood carving, you guys, let's interpret that in many different ways. Not everyone can shave every day. Oh, hello, Marta's just taken over.
I mean, there was also, you have to kind of look deeply too. So the internet is great for many things, but I would try and look for more obscure things, because there's a lot. Of course, Mulan has a lot of fan base for the original, not just the original meaning, but obviously the original Disney cartoon. And or animation is probably the right word for me to use, not cartoon. And so, I looked around the noise around that, and just to be sensitive to the original fan base, really, and just to see what it was like, because it wasn't something that I grew up with. I kind of bypassed all that, the Disney princess things. And Mulan, I think, is kind of different than a princess. So we wanted it to be a lot grittier and very real and very earthy. So, I also looked a lot at different tribes, Mongolia and Kazakhstan. A lot of our writers were coming from places like that, the difference in their facial structure. So it's almost a bit anthropological in a way, like you were saying. Where do they eat? Because we had tribes.
Yes, absolutely.
Ran soldiers coming from different parts, so they're more ground dwelling and lived in tents. So it's kind of like a bit of a big learning curve to get historical facts. We're also really lucky, and I think it was quite smart of Disney to do. We had cultural advisors from a very, very early start. One was solely military, and one was very good, because I would often ask them really bizarre questions, and they would try their best to answer them as to if it was appropriate or not. And I would always get told, "Well, when you explain it like that, Denise, I think you can get away with that." So it was there was a lot of things like that. So yeah, it was a long process.
Yeah, and then to cap it all, you've got the Disney franchise that comes after. I mean, we had this with Aladdin. You got the franchise element of it, that basically Disney is a huge big machine that kind of all of these characters you're creating. I know we was very conscious when we was doing Aladdin that our Jasmine and our Aladdin really had to have the sentiments of the cartoon. There was an element of the cartoon with them as well. They're so cherished and so loved.
Yes.
But, you have to kind of introduce this into your design as well. You have to be really sympathetic. You're kind of juggling a lot of options with your design, aren't you, on the Disney films, I think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of voices and what it means to them. Even though we're going, we're making the film, this is what we do.
Yeah.
We've got people who want to design the makeup palette, the people doing the toys, and they all want a meeting, and you're like, we haven't started shooting yet.
Yeah, and then you get shown what the toy's going to look like.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, woo, I'm not doing that to the hair. Right, okay, so what was your budget?
Oh, God. Well, it changed a lot, because new things kept getting brought in. Because obviously there was, there's the script that's signed off, but then obviously when each actor, and we had a lot of very well-known Chinese actors and I suppose icons, they want to put something in. So, it was like continually designing. What about this? What about this? But, never giving more than my 3 is all you get to choose from. But I think, and I had to rewrite the budget probably about 5 times, depending. But I would say I can't remember what it was for the crew. I would say everybody's wages.
That's just not wages. It's more to sort of make up budget. I think it's
right.
a question that I always find interesting, because it's like, because you're like me, we sort of jump between big budget and low budget, and it's learning to work with 250,000 and learning to work with 20,000 and learning to work with 2,000. You know,
I would say it was probably in excess of $500,000 US, my budget, because everybody had to have a wig, and it had to fit them, and you're shipping everything to New Zealand. So I think probably I spent $500,000 US plus prosthetics, which would have probably been another 70 to 80,000 US.
And which is kind of sort of, that's about what we had on Aladdin, I think, which it kind of makes sense. And over in New Zealand, I mean, sorry, I'm going off piece a little bit here, but over in New Zealand, did you take wig makers with you, or is there a really good setup over there?
No, we had to be very inventive. I mean, I love working in New Zealand because I love working outside, and it's really great. That's kind of how I grew up, because I was born there, you know, shooting outside, so not just locked inside green screen studios for your whole life. And so the crew that I have there that, you know, work for me if I have a project, or work continually when, you know, with other designers, and some are designers in their own right. You've kind of got to be very clever how you put the team together, because not everybody lives in where you're shooting. So everybody has to be bought from everywhere. And really, if there's one big other competing project on, it's pretty impossible to crew a film of that size. So, like, you know, I've been there several times to work on things like Spartacus, or Ash vs. Evil Dead, when I set up the pilot for Sam Raimi's project. But there's really great crew there that are good at working the floor, at working outside, you know, and processing the people. In terms of wig making, we had to be very clever about it. Our wig operating room was built in a container crate, because there was never going to be one. It was never in the budget. And I just said, we need a wig department. So we had fantastic Vanya and Fiona. Vanya was our main wig dresser, and Fiona was pretty much in charge of refronting everything, because we had to buy a lot of ready-mades for every single stunt double, writing double, picture double, second unit double, green screen double that there was going to be. That it's not going to be there within time to make a wig. They're going to get there 4 days out, 5 days out, and you need to refront and have them ready. So we kind of did that. And then I had about 9 different wig makers around the world that I would piece out the work to. So I had, in the UK, I had Carol, lovely Carol Robertson, and I had Shepperton Wigs, made some things, because also you can't go and get Asian hair wigs, and I really wanted to use the right material. So, I mean, you know, even though I looked through all the stock at Alex Rouse's and, you know, Peter Owen, nobody had anything. They had hair that I could buy, but I decided to attack it in terms of getting a lot of sport things. Like I went to PAX and went to Sonic to get a whole lot of what I call templates that we would just basically cut up and remake. And then I bought a lot of ready-mades from friends, Stilazzi wigs, John Blake wigs. So because then you could have a variety to turn into your Bride of Frankensteins. And then I had also Irwin in LA make a couple of the lead actors' wigs.
It's funny, we know all these people.
I know.
Isn't it? Who you know all around the world.
Because also the actors,
all these tricks.
I couldn't see all the actors for the fitting, so I had to send crew to Hong Kong and China to fit them. I had to go to Singapore to meet Jet Li, to fit him. And, you fly there, you do that, and then you leave. It's just, it's ridiculous, but it's what needs to be done. And Carol had to go to Paris to meet Gong Li but it was easy to her to get there on the train from Bristol. So I felt like I was just a coordinator. I made a big chart on the wall that basically had 59 names and where they lived, when I was getting access to them, because you couldn't speak to them till their deal's done, where we were sending them, who was going to them, because I wanted to get the wig make, and then we'd work out who could make the wigs. So that took up an incredible amount of time and was pretty much my main focus
Denise, it's so brilliant, because what you're doing is you're literally clarifying what I always say to people when they come to the training school, because everybody kind of wants to be a designer, and I'm just like, do you know what, guys? Designing is all about coordinating, and it's literally, I mean, obviously it's our eyes that sort of say, yes, we like this, and we get the end result. But ultimately, so much of our job is knowing who can do what, and literally sending, coordinating the actors with who has to get things made, who has to have stunt doubles, and it's a big old thing, really, a big old ensemble of actually trying to get everything and coordinating everything all together. So I'd always say to all of you sort of wannabe designers out there, enjoy actually being a makeup assistant to a good designer, because you kind of get to do all the fun stuff.
Yeah, I think everybody, my poor assistant Rachel, every time I come in, I go, okay, so that actor's not arriving here. Now they're stuck in LA. We actually put together a kit of how I like a wig wrap done and how I wanted the photos and the type of hair. And I had, and then send the pack to who was doing the fitting and who was making the wig. And, we also had, we also hired some stock wigs from Roberto in Italy, but I also got him to make what I call, kind of some wigs that we could own and then change those, as we did also with Italia Bassi and Bali and other makers in Australia, because we had to think about how long it takes to get everything.
We're
at the bottom of the world.
Could you take any UK crew out of you, and how do you crew up a film like that? What's your ratio of UK crew you can take to locals you have to use?
Well, I think in Europe it's a lot easier. It depends on their tax break thing, right?
Yeah,
because,
totally.
Now,
anyone that's listening, it's a local spend. Like when we film overseas, we're obliged, even if we take a main team with us, we have to spend some of the budget locally in whatever country we're in.
And I suppose the thing for me is that being a New Zealander and knowing a lot of the crew there and finding it, and because I've worked there, that I kind of knew who I wanted to work with there. And also, you trust the people that you have known for a while, who's around and who makes a good team, because they're all going to be in the trailer together. They're all going to have to be on set together. So, and they all know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they've got a good shorthand. So I kind of would, I early on asked for, my supervisor, my main assistant, because there's so much paperwork. I decided on this job I wanted a coordinator and a design assistant. Yeah. And I kind of just structured the department like that so that I could, could work. And I just kind of got recommendations from them, really. I said to Disney that I would try and crew it all locally, but that if I couldn't, that they would have to bring people. We ended up bringing a few people from Australia, probably about 9 people, and 7 in background and two key. My fantastic department coordinator, Rick Findlater, and Georgia, who looked after Mulan. Uh-huh. So, and wig makers were kind of working remotely, I would say. But yeah, I also, it's a big ask to ask someone to come over from, from the UK when a film's being pushed 3 times or 2 times, and they've got other jobs they're doing, they've got families, they've got kids, so it's not for everyone, is it? It's not like...
No, it's really not. I mean, it always sort of sounds great on paper, but it's really not. It's not for everyone, you're right. It's a tough one. I was going to say something about the team then, and my flipping phone, which I didn't put on silent, just pinged and distracted me totally. Yes, everyone, it's really live. Okay, before I've got a couple more questions before we kind of go out and sort of like ask everybody what they want to sort of the questions they've got waiting for you. You was in Jordan with us, wasn't you? You was doing a private war whilst we was doing Aladdin.
Oh yeah, did I ever see you though?
No, we didn't, because you was up. No, we didn't see each other, and I kind of knew you was there because my really good friend Sophie Beecher was production designer on it.
Yes.
Yeah, and she kept going on about you, saying, "Oh, I just love it." And I kept sending messages via her to you and hoping it was kind of getting to you. But we was kind of hoping we could meet in Petra at one point. But I think we just didn't. I think we was there for like 2 weeks. But I mean, a Private War, that was an incredible film.
Yeah, that was intense. That
really, I mean, that's based on the true story of the
war correspondent. Yeah, I mean, it's a really special film. I suppose in a way, God, when I think about it, it's quite funny. I did 3 very female-orientated films back to back. Because I did that one, which was about Marie Colvin and the war correspondent, and and then I went straight into a film, a kind of another experimentalist film about Marie Curie.
That was with Rosamund as well, wasn't it?
Both starring Rosamund, and that's obviously not being released because of COVID as well. And then on to Mulan. So 3 women whose name begin with M. It was kind of like a
done 3 M's,
3 graces. Yeah.
So when are we going to see Mulan?
Well, I'm not entirely sure. They have, the publicity I've seen says that they're going to release it July the 24th. But I suppose they will have to ratify and work out whether they can actually do that, because who knows if picture cinemas are going to be open. And I think very much so they want to do a worldwide release. So that's the date they've advertised. But, I haven't been told anything more than that.
Cool.
I was very lucky to see the film, though. I saw it just before lockdown, Chris.
Well, listen, if the trailer's anything to go by, it looks flipping incredible.
Yeah, I think everyone will like it. I mean, who knows?
I think it's really weird when you sort of see something you've worked so hard on, especially if it's taken a good year in the making, and you kind of sort of see it. And people always ask about, when you're seeing your own films, are you really critical? But I kind of always think if you can watch it as a good, fun film without noticing anything, that to me is every box ticked of what I want to achieve on a film. I just don't want anything to kind of jump out at me unless it's meant to.
Well, I think this is right. Normally I'm so critical when I watch anything. It might take a couple of times before I can actually be immersed in the film. But honestly, when I watch this, I think I wasn't thinking, looking at, it wasn't about us, it was about that. And Yifei, the actress, is just incredible, and all of Nikki's decisions. It's a very epic film too, and I think it's a really great film for young kids to watch. As it says, as well, Ryder.
Do you know what? That leads me to this question, as one mum to another. How have your girls seen it?
Yes, they came to the premiere.
Did they like it?
Yeah, they loved it. And they were very excited because they got to have their photo taken with Eve, and they were very excited. But they've kind of grown up.
The girls from New Zealand with you?
Yes, we had to relocate. Yeah, we relocated and they went to school.
So lucky. They've literally grown up on film sets, these girls, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. They were actually in the film, but unfortunately, the scene's been cut.
Okay, let's move on from that. Okay, my last question is, I know this for a fact that you're a very accomplished artist, and that's your background predominantly. But what made you move from being an artist to makeup design? And are you also designing hair? You do design hair as well, don't you? Of course you do. I know the answer to that one. But what took you from being an artist, being a successful artist, to going into makeup?
Well, it kind of happened accidentally, really. I mean, in those days, you didn't really think necessarily that makeup was a viable career, did you? I mean, people see it now, but I started doing makeup while I was at art school, really. So when I was doing my undergraduate, we would make our own films in a department called Intermedia. And so we'd all muck in, really, and I'd always end up doing the art, painting the background, doing the costume, doing the makeup, because they were all like little fantasy things. And then when we were at art school, some of my mates made music videos, we made short films, they won a few awards. And then really I got asked, would you come and work on this? And I was like, you could get paid to do that. So I kind of, I initially started off doing art department, doing standby props, and I started art directing commercials. And then I really just decided that I'm much more of a person who makes things, because my background is as a sculptor. So started looking into the possibility of doing that. I used to get books out of the library and just practice, and I worked at the theatre. That was kind of my first job. And then from the music theatre videos, we progressed into short films, and then into drama and fast turnaround TV. So, that's kind of what happened. And just from a natural kind of flow of things.
No, it's kind of a natural progression, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's no, so many people I find that, they don't actually have any planned route. It just kind of, it's almost like it's by pure accident and chance that they kind of fall into this next thing. I mean, there's obviously a direction there, but it's I suppose I'm more curious with you, because I know that you was having exhibitions and everything when I first met you. It was very, very
I mean, it's much harder to do that with the kids now, because it was always easy to do a film, take 3 months off and make the exhibition. But now, as you know, dates and times shift. So I was actually supposed to be working on an exhibition that was going to be in Hong Kong, but obviously that's not happening. So everything's just kind of postponed. So yeah.
Cool. Right, Mr. Peter, you've been very quiet there.
Yeah, I've been waiting patiently.
I'm going to throw it over to you now.
On that note,
I'll butt in, you know me.
Some of the questions that come in. One was, because you do prosthetics, you do makeup. You just mentioned you're a sculptor. What's your kind of dream? Where are you happiest? Maybe is the best question.
Gosh, that's hard one to answer. No, I think it really depends. I mean, I think anything, whether you're making your own artwork or you're working collaboratively with people, it's all about I guess getting the end result, isn't it? It's what you make, what you get on screen. So I kind of guess from the art point of view, I take the skills that I have there, and that just is naturally how I work as a maker.
Yeah. Similar, isn't it? Like I say, it's creative, it's hands-on, so they're all sort of similar genres. They're not like...
Yeah, well, I guess I just think of the character as a three-dimensional being as well. So it's kind of funny, because if you are just doing the makeup or just doing the prosthetics, because sometimes you have to do that, especially when you work in different countries, or if you work with a hair designer. I find that fine as well, but sometimes I'm always like, oh, that's right, I can't touch that, Oh no, my edge. Who's shaping the head? Where does the edge end? It's funny because I'm so used to doing it all, but at the same time,
whenever I've got work overseas,
yeah,
sorry.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah. What can I touch?
But it's funny because when we were doing the pickups for Mulan there, they were very much like, oh no, you're the boss, you can do whatever you want, we won't dob you in. So that was quite funny. But yeah, I don't know. I'm generally pretty happy with whatever decision I've decided to be doing at the time. I mean, the grass is always greener, but you just have to go with what you've said you're doing,
And on Mulan and other films, you've got the prosthetics department, you've got hair, you've got people doing all these areas,
yeah, which
you enjoy doing. Are you critical? Do you, like, as you just mentioned, do you sort of want to jump in and go, oh, maybe, what about, or are you quite good at standing back?
No, I think it's to do with communication, really. I think because of my interest in those things, like I've even done like a wig making course, not that I'm in any way, shape or form a wig maker, but it was so that I could speak to the people who are making the wigs, and I can talk to them about the direction of the hair and where I want the pleats and the knotting and the type of lace. And, it's all about how to get across to get the best results you can, and so that they understand what on earth it is that I'm wanting. It's the same with prosthetics. I'm not going to be the person sitting there sculpting, because there are people that can do that much better than me. But I do understand the language, and I can look at something and say, this needs shaving off here, this is too thick, we need this, So and also when I work with the team, you've got to realize they all, as I'm sure you know, Chrissy, they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, and some of them like being told what to do, and other people like to freebase it a bit. So I'll say to them, hey, what do you think of this? I often have the guidelines, but I very much just let them have their own input too, because it makes it more interesting for them, I think, creatively.
Well, it's good, but it's. I think what you're saying is it's good to know, to have a background, to have an idea about, like you say, about the wig or prosthetic, whatever, or what's going on, so you can see it and go, well, actually, maybe we could change that a little bit or whatever. Without, to have some knowledge of it, I suppose, is good to know. There's a few questions about Mulan, so we'll just do a few more about Mulan very quickly, Denise. I do apologise. And there's a few, like Natalie, Karen, there's a few they've mentioned, which you've mentioned before, the cultural aspect of it. So was it a challenge in doing a movie that already existed as, obviously, it's an original form and a poetry, and then Disney, and now you're making Mulan? Who did you have to listen to, or who did you have to be sympathetic to? Was it obviously to the original, or Disney, or how?
To the director, really, because that's my job. You listen to all the other things. It's very similar to when you have an actor in the chair and they tell you what they like and what you don't like. You bear that in mind, but you kind of have to make a decision as to what's going to come through as the best result, really, you know. So I think Nikki had done a lot of deep research, and very much she wanted to honour the original, but make her own thing. And I think having all of that, the cultural advisors in place really did help us, because then we didn't waste time with, you know, and you just work together. I worked very closely with the costume designer and the production designer. So you felt like you had a bit of strength there. You weren't just out on a limb.
Jose from New Zealand is saying, looking back, what were the highlights of the project for you? And would you have done anything different?
Is that Jose who worked on Mulan?
Noriega?
Yes, hi Jose. Well, we wouldn't have had you, no, of course. Jose was amazing. He was just so adorable. Gosh, how do you answer a question like that? No, I think it's hard to say. I think you can't necessarily always work retrospectively, because it's like looking back on your life. Would you have done anything different? I mean, half of the decisions you come to are through the bizarre twists of fate, or the things that get thrown at you, really. It's never as straightforward as, okay, this is the design, we're going to stick to the design and that's all we're going to do, because obviously I work collaboratively and the actors have their say in what happens, as does the director at Disney. But no, I think we got through the pain of it all and the joy of it all pretty okay.
Was he a makeup artist, Jose?
Yes, he's fantastic.
Working on The Zookeeper's Wife and working with so many animals, what was that like?
Great. Pretty amazing to go to work with baby lion cubs. You know, I mean, it's quite bizarre, because normally you do a lot of that in CGI, wouldn't you? But Nikki really wanted to do everything in camera. And thinking about it, a lot of her films have animals, Whale Rider, and then obviously the zoo. So we had to build a fake zoo, which functioned as a set, which was quite amazing. We didn't really have to interact with them, though, because a lot of the time, you know, the frames were done in a way where we basically had to keep away from them. But it was pretty incredible to witness that. And it's always really nice to have animals on set if they're not causing problems to your department.
It wasn't scary at all, any moments or anything like that? Or was it always the distance? And
no, I mean, they were pretty prepped about what.
To Pete, you think we're doing a Tiger King?
yeah, exactly.
Seriously. No, but most animals have handlers, and we're kind of, as part of our, you know, you're kind of told when there's animals, especially, you know,
or gunfire or something.
That you kind of sort of you sort of let the handlers sort of have their space, really. I'd love to think you could go in and pet them all day, but we're not usually allowed, are we?
No, you disrupt their focus.
I watched Bringing Up Baby the other day, Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, and with the leopard. And it really looked, I couldn't see that, you know, she was stroking the leopard. It was, it was very strange. It looked real. You know,
I think that was back in the day when Harrods used to sell animals. I don't think they're allowed to anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
You've mentioned, a few people are asking now, you've mentioned about, you know, how you sort of started. Could you give a bit more information about how you started in the industry? Where did you train? Where were you, etc.?
Well, pretty much in New Zealand, I kind of cut my teeth on everything. And, you know, then when I came here, I moved to, 99, because I met you, Chrissy, either in 99 or 2000. And I came here to do my master's in fine arts, basically to have a break from making films and making art. So I came here, did my master's, and then basically I just tried to learn as much as I could, particularly with doing lots and lots of short courses here on top of what I'd learned in New Zealand. I mean, my background is pretty much as an artist, as you know, so I'm pretty much self-taught with painting and makeup. But here I wanted to do as much as I could. So I did, you know, I think Kenny Lintott taught me how to do facial and lay on hair. And, you know, I did a course with Liz Mitchie when she was doing period long hair. So, because that's something we don't have access to, you know, in New Zealand to the same degree. And some of the early courses that I did, and then I also put myself through a barbering course. So I kind of just continually learned things to add to what I was doing naturally, really.
A couple of people have asked, you're a makeup designer and predominantly the last time now you've been designing. Would you go back to a crowd and be a makeup artist, as it were?
Yeah, I often do, because I really, miss my pals, and a lot of them work in crowd. And also I've got 2 daughters, and if I don't want to be going away for 6 months, or I just want to stay in London and, be around and, and they ask me, it's great. And it's a really nice way also to connect with everyone and to see who's up and coming. That's often where I'll meet people that I'll ask to work on films, or bear in mind for next time, because you're seeing how people work. You're not just seeing what they look like on paper.
That's a good thing. And you do get asked to go on crowd.
I do sometimes work either in crowd or for other designers. Yeah, it just depends. It's often to do with just what's happening at the time.
Laura is asking, is there a project or a job that you would love to do in the future? Any period, sci-fi or horror?
Oh, I do like a bit of sci-fi, but and fantasy. Don't know what it would be named though. I don't know. I think something. I mean, it's hard thinking about that nowadays, because for us to go back to work anyway, I mean, how are we going to be achieving anything? But I think something that has lots of things that we can make that aren't necessarily all CGI'd would be quite good. A bit old school, something a bit old school, I think.
Oh my God, on saying that, last night, me and Alf watched Contagion. Have you seen it? So I'm going off.
I saw it a long time ago.
Oh my God, watch it again. It was just incredible. Like the similarities to what I mean, it's a really good insight into what was going on. Not that you should be followed by a Hollywood film. But I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, we've been in a lot of talks about how the industry is going to get back up and running and things. I mean, there's definitely rumblings of it at the moment. I think it's first and foremost, they've got to get all of the health and safety into place, so it will happen. And I think when it gets up and running, it's going to, small steps at first, but I think when it starts, I think there's a lot of, they're going to need a lot of new content, because I think everybody's a bit
sick of replaying.
Is there anything that you were told during training that sticks with you to this day?
I think just practice, because a lot of from having taught myself, having been in the position of having to teach and also as being a student, I think sometimes when people go and they think, oh yeah, I understand that now, I can see how you've done that, yeah, I can see that, and then they'll just spend a lot of time writing the notes, and then they think they know it. I mean, I think a lot of how I learned was kind of out of boredom, because you're just making things and you're painting things and you keep doing it. It's like, I think it's the practice, and sometimes you can't just do the practice on a job. You have to actually practice and prep for a job. So I would say, that's a really important thing,
But I think it's an inquisitive mind. I mean, by just listening to you this last hour, you want to learn something, you go and find a course, you do it, you learn it, and then you work at home and make, play, try, practice and do, and that's how, I dare say, you and many other people have got where you are, really, isn't it? By that, there's no secret formula, is there, Denise?
No, and everyone's different, Pete. I mean, I think, other people might not have that approach, but I think it's a language, isn't it? And that's how you understand it, by doing it.
Yeah. I suppose on that note, there's other questions that quite a few people are asking is, what do you look for when you are selecting your team?
Well, I have people that I work with a lot, but we don't always get to move from project to project, because obviously, because I move around a lot, that doesn't necessarily suit them. And, they're all got their own lives to do. I think when I think about it, I think, okay, what does the script demand? Who can do what? And I think you look for flexibility, people who can, how they function together as a team. So if someone's really good at prosthetics and then somebody else can do makeup and hair, if someone only wants to do the wigs, we just see how the work is carved up. I mean, in terms of, they basically are, a lot of them are my friends. They've got to be good fun. and kind of be well-adjusted, decent human beings, really.
Yeah.
And obviously they're talented. So it's not really brain surgery. You know, and also, you know, people that can get on and have the greater good of the project in mind and will actually be a great team.
Laura's asking, are there any other designers or artists that inspire you?
Oh, well, it's funny. I like Guillermo del Toro's work as a director and an artist, because he's actually comes from a makeup artist background. I quite like the fantasy element of his work as a director and as an artist. I mean, God, look, there's so many makeup and hair people that are, and prosthetic people that are incredibly talented at being.
Is there a director that you kind of always wanted to work with, or are you happy to work with anyone?
I would say Guillermo del Toro, and you know, that's basically just based purely from the visual. I don't know anything about his working process or anything like that. I love working with Nikki Caro because her process is so actor focused, and how, you know, she allows you so much creativity. We have a really good trust and, you know, utmost respect for her. And I don't know, I think I actually enjoyed the time I worked with Mike Lee for you, Chrissy.
Oh yeah, but
I really like his process too. It's bonkers, but
it kind of sort of sounds like there's a lot of similarities. It's that, you know, like the acting workshop and things. It's kind of I think it's kind of sort of interesting when you're in our job that you actually you have to enjoy the process of filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know, and this is why I think it's kind of really interesting when you're working on the lower budget films, because you're kind of much more, I mean, you'll get this with Nikki anyway, and I kind of get it a bit with Guy, because we built up a trust with Guy Ritchie. We've kind of built up a trust over the years, whether he's doing big budget or little budget. But it's kind of that thing where you like to be involved in the process. You get very much, it sounds like you get that with Nikki and what I get with Mike. But yeah.
I mean, it is quite funny with Mike, isn't it? Because you don't know what's going on and you can't say anything, but it's very real.
But the one thing you do know is whether your actor's character would do that or not.
Yeah.
I know, I find it amazing, again, not from a non-makeup background, just watching when the actors would come in, when Chrissy's doing a Mike film, and Chrissy knows, obviously I haven't got a clue about anything, and the actor's got just a little bit, and it's almost, I'm listening, and the character is being created as he's talking. It's really amazing, you know, just to listen on, it's a wonderful thing. So it's a really great thing to do. Maria and a few others are asking, what is your favorite makeup in your kit, or is there a product that you would always have by your side?
I probably always have, you know, the good old grease palette, always. Actually, I think when we were training, we would always say you should have to be able to get out of jail completely, and you can only paint with primary colours. So if you were stranded on a desert island, you're only allowed water, isopropyl, and this palette. That's all you can, because it's about painting. You should be able to mix anything from primary colours. What else? Gosh. Always anti-shine, probably, because I don't really use a lot of powder unless it's a particular look. So I tend to have lots and lots of different types of anti-shine because they work differently on different skin and on different prosthetics. Gosh, it's mean. It's mean, really, isn't it? There's so much stuff we have. And
well, do you know, it is, but you know, it's funny because it always comes back to the grease paint palette. You know, a good grease paint palette and a good dermacolor palette, and you can pretty much do anything that you need to do. I think, you know, we can even make it work as mascara and things if we need to. Do you know what I mean? We'll make it work, you know.
Box of paints, really, isn't it?
Paints, yeah.
We're going to be hopefully doing a competition with Cryoland, and I think you know, we should do a competition of, you know, just, you know, what can you do with this palette, you know, because everyone, Denise, all the makeup designers coming in,
Maybe that's what we should do. That should be our starting ground for that competition. Is
make
the palette and show us what you can do. because we was going to do it as clowns, wasn't we? But I think that's we can move on to. Yeah, good idea. Let's talk about that in a sidebar meeting, Pete.
So, running out of time, but there's a couple of more questions, Lise. And if you wanted to get involved in a career in film as a makeup artist, from Sophie, would you get involved in the art department or the makeup department? Do you think a degree or college is necessary? Would an academy like CBMA be just as good? And would it offer the same opportunities?
Well, look, I think it depends on where you are in your life and how old you are and, how much time you've got. And I think you've got to be passionate about wanting to do it, because nowadays there's so many, it is an industry now, there are so many trainees. So many people who want to work. And I think you've got to kind of decide, well, what do I want to do it for? Do I want to do it just as a job, or am I kind of passionate about this? What can I offer? What's my skill? So I think these days, there weren't as many courses when I had started out like you have now. There was probably only London College of Fashion and, Grease Paint, and Delamar really. Wasn't there, Chrissy, over here, but now there's loads. So the good thing about going to a makeup and hair school is that you get to meet people who are actually doing that as a job. And you actually also develop a relationship with peers. You get to do lots of things. And with a school like Chrissy's, you also get some on-set experience. So I think they're invaluable if you're serious about working in the film industry. I mean, obviously, if you want to follow a fine art path, that's a completely different thing. But, they can intersect.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for running out of time, unfortunately. Denise, thank you so much for having a chat with us.
Is that us over?
Yeah, yes, an hour. Went quickly. Lots of people coming in already saying thank you so much, guys.
Denise, it's been really, really lovely talking to you. And especially, I'm going to say this again, because I kind of feel that I kind of met you almost when you first set foot on UK soil.
Yeah, pretty much. 21 years ago, Chris.
Wow. Well done, you.
We look forward to having you come and teach again, Denise, because it's been a long time since you taught at the school.
Yeah. There's lots of love, Denise. Thank you very much. And thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. You're just going to cut us off, aren't you?
Yeah.
Hey, Denise. I'll speak soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.